Okay, welcome to Mr. Ben's Wednesday What's coaching tips. This week I thought I'd speak to you briefly about the benefits of using a turbo or turbo training. Funny enough, I've got one on now. Looks like I'm a slave to the turbo. I'm not. I'm quite the opposite. I spend more time on the road than the turbo. Why? Because my personality, I struggle on the watt bike because my mind just travels from one thing to another, and 20 minutes on here feels like an eternity, whereas on the road 20 minutes easy for me. But that doesn't mean to say that I train on the road you're going to be better. Quite the opposite sometimes. Using a turbo, even if it's once or twice a week for structured sessions, really pays off for your events or your objectives. If you want to reach X and Y, having a controlled environment such as a turbo trainer means it's so much more easier. You've got no traffic, no potholes, no weather, no bad weather, no undulating hills. Everything is done in like a lab base. So when you're doing, for example, 30-second sprints, or you've been told to cycle at 100 cadence with 1 minute on, 1 minute off, etc, whichever the session needs to be, it's so much more structured to do on the turbo. So many times I've gone out on the road and say, right, I'm going to go and do classic 4-5 minute VO2 efforts. You set off and you always come up to an obstacle, where there's a corner, where there's a downhill or an uphill, where there's a junction. It's very rare to find perfect conditions, and also next time you go and do that same session, you could have a massive tailwind or a headwind, or it could be colder, and they all affect performance. So simply doing the session on here, dead easy to quantify. There's no elements around you, it's just you and the bike. You store the data, you can see the data, you haven't got to look around the road, you can just get your head down and focus. That's the main thing. Of course, the downsides to using one of these are there's more costs involved, it gets hot, it gets sticky. I find it really hard to work solo. If I work in a group environment, in like a watt bike studio or a turbo studio, I find myself up the next level because I've got people to, not to compete against, but people to create that environment that I need for me to be motivated. The downside of these are, if you haven't got much cycle background or skills, you're going to lack your riding skills, such as braking, cornering, reading the road, etc. You take the enjoyment away from riding outside, taking the environment, the wildlife, the noises, the sounds that this doesn't deliver. And I think the other thing as well, sometimes you become too obsessed with power, cadence, and etc, and you take out why we started cycling. We start cycling because it's a fitness, trains our heart, improves our muscle strength, and also we do it because we love cycling. So, to conclude from this, don't skimp away from turbo sessions, but don't be a slave to the turbo, and vice versa. You should have a balance of both. In the summer, I'll be using this once or twice a week for my hard structured sessions. They'll be done within an hour. My longer sessions, my recovery sessions and social sessions, will be done on the open road, on the road or the mountain bike. So, a simple thing on turbo training. Anyway, take care guys. I will see you next training tips. See ya.